The most dangerous people are not the ones who lose control. They're the ones who never do. And when they finally admit they meant to hurt you, that's not weakness. That's revelation. There is a single line that wounds more deeply than mockery, sharper than humiliation, heavier than open hostility, because it isn't fueled by emotion. It isn't the result of someone losing composure. It is delivered with purpose. If those words have ever been aimed at you, you weren't dealing with someone who simply lost their temper. You were facing someone fully aware of their actions. Carl Jung dedicated his life to examining what exists behind the human facade, beneath politeness, beneath ethics, beneath the carefully constructed identities people adopt to function in the world. What he discovered was deeply unsettling. Certain statements are not emotional reactions. They reveal psychological design. They expose the framework of a person's inner reality. And sometimes, what they uncover is so heavy that once you recognize it, you cannot ignore it again. But before we examine the sentence itself, you need to understand the mindset that produces it. This isn't about having a rough day. It's not about a tense exchange or emotional overload. It describes a pattern that develops gradually, quietly, almost unnoticed. Jung explained that every individual carries a shadow. The parts of the psyche we deny, envy, bitterness, hostility, the impulse to wound. The shadow on its own is not wicked. Jung was clear about that. It becomes dangerous only when it remains outside awareness. Most people try to maintain their self-image by pushing that shadow further down. They distract themselves. They justify their behavior. They avoid looking inward. Yet some individuals take a different route. They don't bury the shadow. They nourish it. And when the shadow is fed, rather than acknowledged and integrated, it stops being a part of the personality and starts defining it. At that point, perception shifts. Others are no longer viewed as fellow human beings. They become surfaces onto which unresolved darkness is projected. Their anger is reassigned to you. Their guilt is transferred onto your shoulders. Their fragility becomes evidence against you. This is projection, and projection is never harmless. Given enough time, it hardens into something colder: contempt. Contempt is not the same as anger. Anger still sees the other person. Contempt removes their humanity. It carries the belief that someone is inferior, unworthy of compassion, undeserving of respect. Jung understood that contempt is a rigid psychological stance, and once it settles in, moral limits begin to fade. This is where deliberate harm takes root. And here is one of Jung's most unsettling observations. Those who intentionally hurt others rarely view themselves as malicious. They see themselves as right. Long before any damage is done, their mind lays the groundwork. An internal case is assembled against you. Your statements are reframed as assaults. Your boundaries are labeled disrespect. Your silence is interpreted as strategy. Selective memories are gathered. Conversations are replayed and revised. In each version, you are cast as the antagonist. They become the injured party. This is not simple recollection. It is psychological rehearsal. By the time harm occurs, guilt has already been disarmed. And then something revealing unfolds. The facade drops. The shadow speaks. The words are direct, almost calm. I knew what I was doing. I intended it. I wanted you to experience it. These statements are not delivered in fury. They are spoken with precision. And that precision is what makes them chilling. This is not an apology. It is an assertion of dominance. Your suffering was deliberate, measured, targeted. Jung believed that when the shadow fully dominates the personality, it no longer conceals itself. It demands acknowledgement. It seeks authority. That statement is not a confession of truth. It is a move for dominance. Your pain becomes proof that their strategy worked. That is why they insist you understand it. But the risk doesn't stop there. Once someone steps over an ethical boundary, the mind encounters a conflict. It refuses to identify itself as harmful. So the narrative flips. This is where distortion begins. The same individual who admitted intent will later downplay the damage, reinterpret events, and challenge your response. You're overreacting. You're misreading it. You're holding on to the past. Jung described this as a psychological intrusion, an effort to plant their altered version of events inside your mind. If they can shake your sense of reality, they avoid confronting their own. Understand this without confusion. If someone twists your perception after knowingly hurting you, their actions are not complete. What often comes next is fueled by comparison and insecurity. Some individuals are not seeking resolution. They are seeking elevation. Your recovery disrupts the story they told themselves. If you rise, it exposes that their control was never permanent, and that awareness is unbearable to them. So they circle back quietly. A message framed as care. A remark crafted to reopen old scars. A whisper meant to weaken your momentum. Jung warned that bitterness acts like a toxin to the one who carries it. Your suffering was supposed to calm their internal unrest. When it fails to do that, anxiety replaces certainty. That is why your strength unsettles them. If you are still listening, this resonates for a reason. Those who have never experienced it rarely notice the pattern. They disengage, but you remained. That suggests you are not searching for reassurance. You are searching for understanding. So what guidance would Carl Jung offer? Not retaliation. Retaliation ties you to the very darkness that harmed you. The most powerful response is evolution. I am not defined by what occurred. I am defined by the direction I choose. This is not avoidance. It is integration. Establish limits without malice. Speak honestly without fixation. Step forward without absorbing their bitterness. They aimed to break you into pieces. Becoming whole is your defiance. When someone says they were fully aware of the pain they caused, accept that truth. But do not allow those words to become your identity. Let them sharpen your awareness instead. Jung believed that our deepest injuries can open the door to higher awareness. They never anticipated your restoration. That is why your expansion becomes your triumph.